Welcome back, everybody. Newsline on the road, day 3 here in Chicago inside the United Center for the Democratic National Convention. And outside there were some scuffles with activists there. Look at the streets here. The pro-Hamas crowd descending on Chicago. At one point, they tried to go over to the Israeli consulate. There, they're marching in the streets, and it continued throughout the evening. Let's bring in our panel now to discuss this and also some new developments happening with Iran and Israel. So pleased to have national security analyst. She's the chairwoman at actamerica.org and author of Rise, Brigitte Gabriel. And also alongside Brigitte, host of the President's Daily Brief podcast, former CIA covert operations officer and the current CEO over at Portman Square Group, Mike Baker. Pleasure to see you both.
Thank you.
Before we go and talk about the latest comments from Iran, Mike, what do you make of the protests last night? Some say they weren't as large, that it's not the 100,000 we thought would descend, but we really don't know. This can be somewhat volatile, and it can turn depending on the day and the evening.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. It's a very fluid situation. Obviously, the DNC and the Harris Walz team are happy that it's not the 100,000 plus that had initially been anticipated and could well still show up. Look, everyone has a right to protest. There's no argument about that. But your obligation is to protest peacefully and not allow your protest to slip into anti-Semitism and hate speech, right? Which a number of these individuals in the crowd seem to be, fully supportive of Hamas. If you're walking around the streets of Chicago waving a Hamas flag, it's hard to argue that no, I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm against the conflict. So I think the police they've certainly locked this down. Look, Chicago is, at least this area of Chicago has never been safer. I wouldn't venture, too far into the South Side, given the crime statistics. But they have the right to protest. They just need to do it peacefully.
Yeah, and I agree. The police have been very evenly handed, allowing that sort of protest to take place. But some of them were shot with pepper spray as well. So they've been in the fray as well. Brigitte, let's talk about Iran's latest comments. Now they're saying they won't take hasty action against Israel for killing a Hamas leader. That's an interesting development. Obviously, there was an imminent attack that people were saying, Israel was bracing for this. But the fact they are waiting, it could be more prolonged. Is this worse for the Harris campaign as well? As we know, her relationship with Israel is pretty much deteriorated.
Look, the Iranians did not attack Israel because of this brilliant American negotiating trying to deter Iran. Iran is not scared of the Harris-Biden administration. What happened with the Iran is the Russian delegation went to Iran and said, look, if you just wait, you do not want another embarrassment on the world stage like you did in April with your old outdated technology. If you wait a little bit, we will supply you with new equipment and new missiles, and then you can take action. That's the reason why Iran is delaying. It's not because of American diplomacy.
No, and they know they have time with Joe Biden still in the White House right now and sort of MIA. He's in California this week on vacation. Mike, I mean, this is really incredible. And then you have Waltz who'll take the stage, and he's also a big lover of China. So with our candidates that are one at the White House and the one that are sitting here, all our adversaries are just cheering this on.
Yeah, and they're also asking the same question that a lot of Americans are, which is who's in charge and who has been in charge. Look, I mean, obviously, Harris, Anita Dunn, Ron Klain, a variety of others, the Biden family, they spent months and months, right, deceiving the American public over the condition of the leader of the free world. And they're getting a free pass for it, which is kind of shocking in its own way. But look, I agree with Brigitte, and I also think that part of the problem that Iran is dealing with right now is there is a very interesting level of paranoia within the IRGC and the Iranian regime over exactly how much intelligence and how many assets Mossad and other Israeli elements have inside of Iran. Particularly after that hit against Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran, there's a lot of concern that perhaps a significant retaliation by Iran could lead to something that they just can't expect because they don't know the extent of Israel's penetration of the regime in the IRGC.